Check 1, 2. Check 1, 2. Testing 1, 2. Testing 1, 2, 3. Testing 3, 4, 5. One, two. Check 1, 2. Test. 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 Testing. Testing 1, 2, 3. Check 1, 2. Check 1, 2.
I don't know when he's he a junior or sophomore. I don't know. Anyway. Oh, okay. So I don't know if you have time this week or if you want to do. And we'll just meet at the fire hall again. Is that okay?
Yeah, that works out good. Cause I can stop on my. One second.
Okay.
I'll put that.
Which would be better for you, the speaker and the phone?
This week,
Do Thursday or Friday? Okay, Thursday?
Yeah.
Okay, so. Um. Hey, I need to talk to Abby. Okay, I need to know if she can go meet Mrs. Freeman tomorrow after school to get her, dress measured. Okay, what time is that go to tomorrow? Hey, what time will you be done tomorrow at Tops, or can you do Thursday after school for the measurement of your dress? Okay, so Thursday? Okay, Thursday, okay, and can you be at the fire hall for? That is 4 o'clock too late. 4:30. Can you be at the fire hall on Thursday at 4:30? Tomorrow? Can you do 4:30 tomorrow? Okay, all right, so you have your shoes, right? Okay, so 4:30 tomorrow, you're gonna meet Mrs. Freeman at the fire station. And she'll get it measured, okay? All right, thank you. Yeah, that's all. Okay. Yeah.
Or I can on the phone Friday.
Friday, I have to get Woody's to pick up a chicken, so I can meet, if you can't get it done and you need to meet Friday, Thursday would be that.
Okay. Okay.
Okay, sounds good. Thank you, Deb. I really
You're
appreciate
welcome.
it.
I got a PR and 200 PR. Long jump.
We don't have visitor comment.
You know, that's done. But all in all, it's pretty good. That's good. When you bring up.
John, we don't have visitor comments on here.
They're on there once.
Where at?
The backside. Right there.
Why are they way down there?
Because we changed, remember we changed it. We got rid of the work sessions, it's one visitor comment. Second meeting, it's visitor comments for board action items and then visitor comments.
Hey, John,
So if we have,
We changed that like.
is Wendy here
so
for
if we have
adoption?
something to say about board action items, we have to wait. till
Wendy,
after
why?
comment.
Not us.
But if somebody wanted.
If they were discussing, yeah, we talked about that a while, yeah. Now, the work set. Pat won't be here.
That won't be here.
No. Yeah. Pat and Lisa. Okay, if you guys are ready, we'll get started. We'll rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I'd like to welcome everybody here tonight on this beautiful night. We are going to start off this work session with committee reports. So we have Finance and Operations Committee. Do we have a member that would like to report out for that committee? Okay. Thank you. Personnel and Policy Committee.
Oh, I'm ready to report. All right, bear with me. All right, because we're still working our way through these. Okay, so we had policies 810.1, 0.2, 0.3, and 0.4 that we had moved to this month just to give ourselves more time to go through these. They're around transportation. We made selections on these policies, but we are going to recommend that the HR and business manager take a review just over some language. We want to make sure it's equitable around the checks that we have performed if somebody has reported being pulled over for drunk driving or drug use. So just are going to take a deeper look at that just for consistency, but those will then go for second read next time, hopefully. For the policies 137, 137.1, 137.2, and 137.3, these are policies. Two of those, 137 and 137.1, we actually updated in October 2021. And there were just a few additional adds of language. These looked good. So we actually are recommending that 137 and 137.1 are moved to second read next week because the changes are very minimal. The other two, 137.2 and 137.3, are both new policies, and we did have to select some criteria within those policies. So we're recommending that those are both, continue as a first read. And then finally, the remainder of the policies we reviewed as a first read. There were we had no changes apart from two of the policies. The first was policy 223, which is use of bicycles and motor vehicles. It's about how students get to and from school. We actually added, there's some language in there about what vehicles are prohibited. We did recommend adding in hoverboards and scooters here to this policy. It's a first read, so open to comment from the board when we get there, if anyone has any thoughts about that. And we also added in language on policy 231, which is around social events and class trips. Fairly simple language. We just added in some language there about following under the guidelines around following the building specific handbook policies and rules. So just really wanted to make it clear for the students. That is everything, and I am done with my report.
Okay, Christine, do you have all that? Okay. Okay. All right, thank you. Any questions for that committee? Okay, Curriculum Instruction and Technology Committee. I think Mr. Owens doing
Yeah,
that.
I'll cover that one tonight. A few items to discuss or to share. First, the district is working through the application for the flexible instruction days or the FIDs. My understanding is that was 3 years ago that we did that the first time. So basically reapplying so we can use FIDs continuing in the future. It's understanding that basically the number of FIDs, the way we use them, all that will stay the same. It's just you're basically renewing the application for those. Secondly, there's been some discussions amongst the high school team about changing some of the sequencing of our AP English classes. Basically, just switching the order of the classes are taken by 11th and 12th graders, just based on recommendations from the teachers. We don't believe that will require any board action. That's just more FYI. Third, the topic of WOLA course offerings. So again, for our online learning program, revisiting the criteria for when our full-time in-person students can leverage the WOLA course offerings. Again, some of the recommendations are still being solidified here, but basically relooking at when our in-person students can take WOLA courses versus when they cannot. And really looking at situations like when a student has to have credit recovery or is interested in taking a course that we don't offer. Those would be a couple scenarios where it would be okay for a in-person student to augment their schedule with a WOLA course offering. So more to come in there in the future if any board action is required. Next, a couple items that Mr. Clark shared with us at a high school level. They are reassessing the credit requirements for seniors. Right now, the handbook says that 6 courses per semester are required to be able to partake in OC. So they're reassessing that requirement. And then also the high school is looking at the course offerings for all students to just basically assess eligibility. We have some courses that traditionally have only been offered to certain grade levels. So re-looking at that and revisiting certain prereqs for those courses. Again, those 2 items, Mr. Clark will have update for us on next month. And then lastly, at the middle school, we're looking at the possibility of introducing accelerated ELA courses for some of our students in the middle school. So with that concludes the report.
Any questions for the curriculum committee? Okay, up next, we have reports, superintendent report, Mr. Stage.
I will reserve my report for next week. Thank you.
Okay. Last IU, we do not have a rep. Mr. Owen, NTCC.
Yeah, no updates this time. Our next meeting is next Thursday.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Jones, PSBA.
We received an email today talking about 98% of school districts having to increase taxes because in order to meet the curriculum needs. So just recommend people looking at that, but that was kind of shocking number.
90%, yeah.
So that's all I have.
Thank you. Mr. Barrett is not here this evening. So we'll move on to financial business. Are there any discussions on the financial business? We had listing of bills, general funds, cafeteria earned income tax report, secretary report, charter school funding reform resolution. Request to pay bills for June, July, and August of 2023. Any discussion? Okay,
Yeah, on F, the charter school funding reform resolution.
Yep.
So, I read through that. What's the intent of that? Something that we would, as a board, agree to, and then we would submit to the state, basically just asking for reform. Is that like the purpose of that, Mr. Stage?
Yeah, this is a form of advocacy on behalf of the school board to make it known that you're seeking that our state legislatures seek cyber charter school reforms in terms of payment. As you read through the document, it states very clearly that cyber charter schools bill us at the same rate to educate a student as if you were in a brick and mortar school. So the cost associated with educating a kid here in Athens is not equitable to the cost of educating a student online. So it's a very mixed and unfair way of billing. So we at times could often pay more to a cyber charter school than what we would cost to educate our kids here in our classroom. So I think the most important takeaway is that we had 59 kids participate on cyber charter schools last year with a total cost of $1.2 million. I can assure you that 59 students that are involved in our classes overall would not equate to $1.2 million in spending. And I think that's the biggest takeaway. So I know we get caught up in charter reform bills and these resolutions, but I do think it's important to at least make it very well known that as a district, we need reform. And as we continue to discuss our budget, which you'll see in May, the preliminary budget you'll see in May, you'll clearly understand how the impact of increasing cyber charter school costs are creating a widening deficit for our district.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
thank you. Okay. We'll move on to personnel items. We have some personnel. I see temporary contracts, athletic resignations, supplemental contracts and terminations, some athletic volunteers. We have a request to hire student building and ground summer interns. Any discussion on these items? Okay. Oh, we also have the IT department summer interns as well. We do not have any contracts and agreements. We have under number 8 policies, we have, I'm not going to repeat Natalie's policies. Any discussion on those policies? There are the ones that that Natalie did say that she wanted to move to second read.
If I don't mind, can I
Yeah, go ahead.
raise a couple points? Recently, the Pennsylvania government revised its rules for home education students and participating in regular education programs, which requires us to revise those policies to match the new mandates set forth by the Department of Education. Correct. So just for example, it says participation in career and technical education programs by home education students. By state law, we have to allow those students to be put on our list to participate at the career center. They get put on a list just like everyone else. If we have room, they can take a slot. They'll be responsible for their transportation, but they also have to agree to abide by all the rules as being a normal student. The other thing that's not listed in there is if a student wants to take a course that offers dual enrollment, where they receive college credit. We have to allow that home education student to participate in that course as well. But we also have the right to enroll them for that period of the day. So 40 minutes a day. On site. Yeah. Okay. So I just want to make sure everybody's clear that came with an update with legislation.
Okay. Any other questions on the policies or discussion?
Yeah, I did have a question based on what Natalie shared earlier. So for 223, Natalie said we're adding in hoverboards and scooters. Is that we can't use those on school property, or that student can't use those to get to school?
I just don't understand how we regulate student as to how they get to school. I mean, if, as long as it's not breaking the law, how are you gonna tell them that they can't ride a scooter or a skateboard or a hoverboard or whatever it may be to get to school? You might be able to say they can't do it on school grounds. I don't know how we can tell them or tell a student or a parent, well, no, they,
Until they get proper school property, you're saying, Chris?
yeah.
Yeah.
And I think that I saw in their mini bike, I mean, what is mini bike defined as? There's so many different, you know, there's e-bikes. Is that a mini bike, or is it just with a pedal, or like, you know, there's many different, they should be defined if we're gonna actually
You're looking.
just state it and restrict it.
Yeah, that's why I was asking the question. I tend to agree, right? I think it's hard for us to, at least I would imagine it's hard for us to, or why should we manage that, right? They're not breaking the law.
How are we gonna enforce it?
Yeah, how are you gonna enforce it, right?
Yeah, one thing we did discuss though around the use of things like skateboards or hoverboards, scooters is students using them on the roads, they're not on the sidewalks. It becomes a lot riskier, you know, really from a transport perspective. You know, coming down the street because they're not using the sidewalks because they might not be smooth. So they go on their skateboard or on their hoverboard or whatever, and they would be out on the street, which is, I don't believe that they're supposed to use them.
I just think that's beyond our enforcement. We don't want I mean, ultimately, we're to be putting on that on our administration to be enforcing now, driving around and enforcing while kids are riding a skateboard along a street versus a sidewalk. I just don't understand. I think that's beyond our realm. And I rode a skateboard to school when I was in middle school and put it in my locker. It wasn't like, you know, it was no big deal. You might not think that, John, but yeah.
So it does say the board regards the use of bicycles and motor vehicles for travel to and from school by students as an assumption of responsibility by the parent, guardians, and students. So would the parents be? I don't know. Are we asking the parents to be responsible, or are we saying that we're responsible for the parents to be responsible?
One of the things to note is we added those other items. I mean, this is an existing policy. This isn't new. Those items, the mini bikes.
That's already in there.
skateboards, and
Those are-
It was that's already prohibited.
That's been there for 12
Um,
years now.
So we were like, well, then if that's the case, then it would seem now that these are other modes of transport, I guess, that kids are using, it makes sense to add them there. If we want to completely revisit this policy and say, we don't want to have any restrictions, then I think that's something we should discuss.
Or we could just take the to and from school and just put on school property,
Right.
change the wording to on school property.
Yeah.
Because to and from school, if they're getting here to and from school on their own, it's not our responsibility to verify that they're getting here safely.
Technically, it is, but it's not, but we are responsible for the behavior.
But are we,
Yeah, about 12 years ago, if you notice, this policy was adopted in 2011. You know, I think the important thing is kids come to school, and I really feel if they take a camera. But I don't want them destroying our property.
Yeah, I understand the intent. I just wonder how can you, yeah, I understand the intent. Yeah. Whoever, yeah.
Yeah, I'm just saying, it says that we prohibit the use and then to and from. So like, are we now gonna have to enforce that? That's,
It's implied that we would, right?
yes.
So one thing I think we might want to do before we go
Let's have Pat
and make
check it
any
out.
major changes, is maybe check with our insurance providers. Just to make sure there's no major liabilities, you know, we can call CM Reed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The road law. Does the borough, the township, or the state have any laws in regards to second vehicles that were?
We can reach out to the.
Want to table it then, or do you want to table it? Okay.
Oh, you guys are.
Yeah, if we have more discussion on this, we want to dig into it further. I mean, it's only a first read,
Yeah.
so honestly, I think we don't have to table
No?
it. We
Okay.
could make changes to it
Okay.
for the second read.
Okay.
Does that
That sounds fine.
that
Yeah.
work? Just to
Yep.
not.
We'll
We
get
can
some
reach
answers from
out,
insurance and
I
we'll-
can reach out and see if there's any ordinances in the borough. or
Okay.
township. I don't know if Smithfield Township has any ordinances on that either, so we can reach out to them.
Any more discussion on the policies? Okay, number 9, curriculum and instruction. Here we have the 3-year flexible instruction application for the next 3 years. And that will end in the 25-26 school year. We also have the Commonwealth University of Pennsylvania 3-year memorandum of understanding, which will end the same 25-26 year. And then Mr. Clark's graduation date of Friday, June 9th, 7 PM at the stadium for the class of 2023. If there's inclement weather inside the new gym. Any discussion on these items? I don't know.
Typically, they do based upon the number of kids that are that are graduating. No.
Good question.
I thought we talked about that one year, but we're just first come, first served. Yeah, it might have been COVID, you're right. Probably. Can't remember BC.
Okay,
Is the flexible instruction days, is that the same like number 5? Is that
So
the?
the state, yeah, so the state limits the use of flexible instruction days to 5 per year. So that will stay the same. We did make some slight adjustments to the. Yeah, I was actually gonna say.
Are they effective?
and PDE has to approve it, correct? Yes,
How effective are they?
Yeah, and this is probably the first year we've really dipped into the bid day. We may have tinkered with it a little bit last year, and if you recall, during 2021, when COVID allowed us to shut down regularly because of that, we very rarely shut down. We shut down the lease. So our experience with online learning is probably the most limited. Is it effective day? I don't know. Is it a day of some learning? I would say yes. If you talk to my principals, I think one of the things that challenges them is that there is a requirement for kids to do work, and the work has to be turned in within 3 days of that.
I was just
Know what
gonna
I mean?
say, that was one thing that I did ask about and I appreciated.
Yeah,
Because just like when we had the issues with COVID, you have the assignment out there and it's online and they can't access it due to the storm.
Yeah.
They do get 3 days.
yeah, they do.
Still
And they
make
still
them.
get paper copies at the elementary level for things to do. We still have some issues of kids not turning that in, so we'll have to do absences. There have created some issues with parties and truancies and that, so. So it's a conversation. We're gonna dig into it this summer. It's one of our discussion points this summer, but the application deadline is June 30th. We wanted to get it in your hands early enough that we could get it, because 9 times, like, PD is pretty much notorious for resubmitting, making you resubmit several times. So we just want to make sure we have plenty of time to make sure it's done. Oh, it's, yeah, I'm sorry. It ends on June 30th, the current application, my bad. And just so you're aware about the Commonwealth University agreement, that is for dual enrollment courses. The cost has increased to the grant that was the grant money that was there to kind of offset the cost for students is has been exhausted. It's $115 per credit. We did have an agreement with Mansfield University that was going to give us one more year of free, but that agreement became null and void when they're no longer Mansfield University, now they're Commonwealth. So I do want to make sure people are aware of that. We do have a couple of things that we need to address with that as well with the Commonwealth, and we'll be working with them.
Is there any aid that's available for students who couldn't afford it?
Yeah, there's some hardship things that we can apply for them to get access to those dual enrollment courses. Although sometimes there was a fund that people had donated to get that going, but we also have to figure out, we're up with a little boondoggle with some language in the law. PD made some changes. This year you have to by law have one articulation agreement with at least one institution of higher education to provide dual enrollment courses. That is a mandate for every school district in Pennsylvania. We have 3 articulations agreements, with one with Mansfield, one with Keystone, and one with SUNY Cobble Skill for agriculture. The one hiccup that we're coming up against right now, the way we read the language is if we offer dual enrollment courses and they're taught by our teachers in our building, then we can't actually count that as average daily membership time. So, but we can if the district agrees to pay for the tuition and supply. So we're going to kind of tackle that question here very soon. We kind of have to do some math to see how if it benefits us to just pay the tuition, or if it benefits us to just lose that average daily membership by one class period. My problem is several kids take several dual enrollment courses, so we could lose half a day for a kid for the entire year. So that's a conversation that's going to be coming up in next one. What it means is, so yeah. Mhm. They'll still get the credit hours. What it comes down to is a financial recovery of revenue. If we only get to claim a kid for 0.9 of a day, then we lose 1/10 of their average daily membership or more for the entire school year. And then if you multiply that out by how many kids are taking dual enrollment courses, by how many courses we are offering, then we have to do the math. We're just, it's one of those nice little slip-ins that they slipped in there. And now everybody's kind of waking up to this rule. And so we're not the only district that's trying to figure out what the heck to do and try to do the math on what the cost is. So we'll have more information for you guys soon. Just try to make sure you're aware of it.
Okay. Any other questions or discussion on these? Okay, number 10, transportation, the updated driver list. We have a couple additions. And if there's no discussion on that, number 11, there's nothing for building and grounds. We have nothing for other. Recommended changes to future board action items. I don't think we have any changes. Visitor comments, please give your name, township, borough you represent, the organization which you represent, and the subject matter. It's requested that comments be kept to 3 minutes. Comments relative to private student or employee matters should be directed to superintendent outside of the meeting. And are there any visitor comments at this time? Yes.
Taking my board member off.
Okay.
I come to you in front of you this evening as a parent of an Athens area school district class of 2023 student.
I ask you to explain to me the reasons as to why the seniors cannot decorate their graduation caps for graduation. I don't need to remind you, I hope, I don't need to remind anyone that these seniors have not had your typical high school experience the last 3 years. Their freshman year ended early due to a pandemic. Their sophomore and junior years were full of mask on, mask off. Their senior year, they came into school in August 2022. Most of them had already had their senior pictures taken, either in a gray or black gown. Only to be told in February, your gowns are black. No, never given any chance or choice, or asked as a class, what would you like to do? They were told this was to make it more inclusive, more professional looking. They weren't given any choices. The decision was made for them on the color of their gowns. After receiving their caps and gowns earlier this month, they were told you can't decorate your cap. You will not be allowed to participate and you show up with your cap decorated. We've ordered extra, so if you want to participate, we'll give you another one. Again, they're not given the choice. It's taken away from them. It looks too sloppy. It's not professional. I just want to remind you guys, remind everyone, this is their graduation. This is their day. Last day as an Athens area school district senior. We have raised these kids, nurtured them, educated them, and have cared for them for the past 13 years. We have made decisions for them in the best interest of all students. As long as the caps are not derogatory, if they're not obscene, what does it matter? We don't see them sitting in the stands, their backs are facing the other way. Universities allow them to decorate their caps. 50,000 a year at Elmira, you can decorate the cap however you want. They're not cool. June 9th will be their last day as a Wildcat. Shouldn't they be allowed the right and the freedom to choose if they want to decorate their caps or not? Who are we to tell them? Why does it matter? Why is this even a question? This is their day to celebrate. We've already taken their choice of gowns away from them. Why are we taking this one last memory of their high school career away? I ask you to reconsider this and allow them to decorate their caps.
Thank you, Mrs.
Thank
Menick.
you.
Any other visitor comments? Okay, we have some board communications. We have some personnel transfers. We have the Sunday facility request for SRU row, the gyms. It's quite lengthy. We also have field trip request, which is probably getting up there as the school year is ending. And we have the Nutrition Inc. food service budget for the next school year. At this time, I don't have any board discussion items. Does anybody have anything to discuss prior to that?
I do.
Okay.
I want
Go
to
ahead.
discuss the caps as a board.
Okay.
What are our opinions?
Yeah, who made the decision? You alone? And so it's only your opinion that it doesn't look good? Okay.
I believe the students should have the choice. I think the decision should be made by the class of 2023. in our policy that we just reviewed tonight, we encourage the democratic ideal of citizenship, participation, and decision-making as part of their educational development. Students should be provided experiences and decision-making roles. It should be benefit the students. It should be up to the students to decide. It's not an educational thing. It's a ceremonial. It doesn't have anything to do with their education. It's their ceremony. Does anyone have an objection to them decorating their caps as a board?
You know, to be completely honest, I think it should be up to the students to decide. That I see no reason why the district should say, to the point earlier, as long as it's not derogatory, not obscene, my personal opinion. Is not against our school dress code, not against, I see no reason why they shouldn't be able to do that. I guess I did have a question. Have we, in the past, have we ever not allowed that to happen, or is this the first year that we've
No, this
restricted
is,
this?
I think this is the third year we've allowed it, or this would be the third year we've allowed it. And Mr. Clark and I have talked. Actually, we talked about it today. He planned on having a conversation. In the past, we've set criteria. The criteria are, it has to be about your future goals or future education plans. And it must be non-derogatory. And that we will have extra caps available. And they will be checked at graduation as they line up. And if they are inappropriate, they will be made to switch them out for something that with a blank one. So that has been the criteria set forth. Mr. Clark was getting feedback from his confidants. I'm not exactly sure who they came from, but this issue was raised. We talked about it. We actually discussed it today with Mr. Toscano and Mr. Cummings and Mr. Gabriel. And I do know that Mr. Clark is going to have that comment.
Well, I'll tell you one thing I'm concerned with is like, I think whenever students are told they can't do something, they're gonna find a way to do it.
Yeah.
And I think we're gonna end up with probably a bunch of kids
Yeah.
trying to find ways to sneak in, right? And then at the very last minute, right, find a way to sort of buck the system,
But
right?
they
So
shouldn't have to.
they
If
shouldn't
we
have, to my
give
point, yeah,
them
they shouldn't have to.
the
right?
opportunity, we give them actually the common courtesy to be a senior. I mean, it's,
But, and I do think like there has been a long, other than the just last couple of years, been a long-standing tradition of not allowing that to happen. We're not alone in this debate. I mean, I think there's numerous school districts across state that would go either way on the decorating of caps, because it is a ceremony absolutely for the seniors. It's a rite of passage for them, but it becomes a community event as well. And to meet the needs of the community as well, so.
Is there a way to have a deadline or apply if this can be even
We have it all.
discussed?
Cindy,
to see-
we have that all figured out. If we go ahead with the decorative caps, there is a deadline. They have to submit like a sketch.
Okay.
All of that stuff is already planned out.
So it's not done. Is that what you're saying, or is this a done, no caps is a done deal? Okay. Still discussing it? Okay.
I think
Guess I really don't understand.
why it's even up
why
for
we would-
discussion.
Why we would change this, again, like unless there's been a known problem or something, which I don't know if that's the case, but I don't really know why this practice would change this year. And maybe there's additional information that we don't know yet at all, but to me, it seems like this has been something that's on the top of their hats. There's a way that they're being screened for, to make sure that they're not inappropriate. But I don't understand. I don't understand, I guess,
Yeah, I
the
don't-
rationale
yeah.
behind it.
And I don't think the kids do. They're just being told they can't decorate them. So of course, that's gonna blow up.
Mhm. If the board would be so willing, let me have a conversation with the high school administration team and give us a couple days to get back to you, and we'll come up with a solution that meets the board's request. I think you guys are making it very clear. So, let's lay that out for you. Give me some time to take that.
Okay.
Okay.
Yep.
I have a
Sounds good.
second thing that I'd like to address.
What?
I would ask that the board members take some time this summer, if at all possible, or even now towards the end of the school year, and visit the buildings and check out the security systems. In light of what's happened down in Louisville, what's happened even more recently across the border, I think we really need to make sure that the money that we're spending on our security systems is being used properly and the equipment is what is going to help us. I know if somebody wants to get in, they're going to get in. I understand that. But if we're taking the precautions and setting up the security systems as a way to prevent something from happening, then we need to make sure that they're working properly. I'm grateful for our SROs and their input. And I really think we need to look at the cameras, the security systems, and make sure that they're adequate.
I think, I appreciate that, Kathy Jo, and I think, we have some solutions that we're gonna be talking about very shortly with you guys. My question, that I do also want to point out, I think, or a point that I would make, I don't know if cameras prevent crime. What I would rather us, and I think absolutely we need to have camera systems that are functional and working and in the right areas. So I don't disagree with anything you're saying.
Mhm.
I think our focus needs to be applying the appropriate films on windows to prevent them from being shattered. You can't make anything bulletproof. We are living in a different era. I think our focus is a little misguided by simply focusing on making sure that cameras and things like that are fixing the problem. Our problem should be more realistic about when that happens and how do we prevent that becoming a bigger incident. Cameras are wonderful and they do serve a very significant and relevant purpose in school safety, but it happens to be issues that are already happening or have already taken place. The priority for us is we need to definitely look at exterior cameras, which we put on our list to do. They're significantly expensive and they're hard to actually track down because of everything is technology related. It's hard to get. Yeah, and you'll hear a lot more information about what we want to do with some safety features. Jenny and I are probably going to talk about that within the hour. We have a little bit of a learning session retreat tonight, where we can kind of generally discuss things that are relevant to school safety without divulging too much information that makes those safety factors null and void. But I agree with Kathy, our camera systems need to work. I think if you talk to our principals, they have a level of frustration. I know Clint has frustration. He works very hard on making sure they're up and running and keeping them going. And so we have a conversation that we need to have about those. So thank you for bringing that up.
No, you're welcome. But I mean, we set aside money each year for the turf project. Okay, was it 80,000 a year?
Yeah,
Yeah.
100,000.
Yeah, so I mean, we need to take security and, I know cameras aren't going to stop crimes, but if we can, the more we have in place, I don't know, I just think we need to be more prepared. And like you said, it's not going to stop crime, but a response time for SRU is going to be 15 minutes.
Yeah. And more importantly than cameras at SRU, we should be talking about films on windows that prevent shatterproof glass. We're talking about buzzers on doors that alert the office when entryways are left open or penetrated, and allow those things to happen as well. And obviously, so there's some things we have to do. It's better. We have safe buildings. I do want people to understand. We have safe buildings. We have vestibules in every building. People cannot just readily gain access to any of our buildings. We renovated Row. My first year, 2014, we put in that secure vestibule. And there, you can't get into that building unless you get it through two lockers. And that works all buildings in there. That's going to be our main target. And then education is our second main target. Educating people on what to do, how to recognize threats, how to analyze those things, how to let people know and what to do. You know, we work through our ALIS drills a couple times a year. We do practice lockdown drills a couple times a year in every building, and with a variety of scenarios. So I definitely put that on our priority list, and I just want to make sure that we talk about all the factors. So thank you for bringing that up.
Thank you. And that's all I have. Thanks for listening.
Thank you. Any other discussion items? Okay, our next meeting is next Tuesday, April 18th at SRU Elementary Cafeteria at 7 PM. I don't believe we need an executive session. We're having a learning session following this meeting. A board retreat, sorry. If there's no other comments, do I have a motion to adjourn?
So move.
Thank you. Everybody have a great evening. Thank you.